art was an escape. But Emma's works were not just an outlet. They were also a reflection of a great struggle. A woman's fight against cancer, her attempt to cling to life through the brushstrokes of art. Yet no one was expecting that the pivotal moment that would change the life of this young woman, who opened an art stand on a street corner, would arrive so suddenly. And one day, a face known to everyone noticed her art. But this was only the beginning. Emma's life was about to change forever in just a few minutes. In a sunny park in San Francisco, amidst the honking horns of cars and the hurried footsteps of pedestrians, a small art stand sat quietly. 19-year-old Emma sat behind a foldable table. The slight tremor in her hands was noticeable as she adjusted her paintings. Her hands, covered in paint, reflected the deep marks art had made on her life. But this wasn't just any art stand. Emma's pieces were like fragments of her life. Each painting, with its bold brushstrokes and vibrant colors, told the story of a fight for hope. Each brushstroke seemed to fill the emptiness inside her. Every moment when cancer overtook her body transformed into a piece of her painting. Art had become her escape in the midst of chaos. 6 months ago, when Emma was diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma, her life suddenly darkened. The treatment process was exhausting. Bills began to pile up, and it was a difficult time for her family. But Emma never thought about giving up her art. Art had always been an escape in the midst of chaos. With trembling hands and a heart full of determination, she decided to turn her art into a business. By setting up her stand every day, she hoped to sell enough paintings to afford her next round of chemotherapy. Most people glanced at Emma's works and quickly walked by. Even those who admired her pieces often left without buying anything. She heard kind words, but those words didn't pay for her chemotherapy. Emma's hope was starting to fade, but giving up was never an option for her. That evening, a tall man approached her stand, drawing her attention. He wore jeans, a black t-shirt, and a black jacket, with his face partially hidden by a hat. Emma initially couldn't figure out who he was, but when the man carefully examined a painting, her heart began to race. There was something familiar about him, but she couldn't place it. When the man looked up and smiled, Emma realized who he was. This was no ordinary customer. This was the legend of cinema, Morgan Freeman. Her hometown hero stood right in front of her, examining a painting. Morgan Freeman's voice carried a weight in every word. He wasn't just a movie actor. He was also a beacon of hope. Emma was seeing him up close for the first time. The depth in his eyes seemed to carry the traces of a life lived over many years. Emma's mind struggled to grasp the moment. What was Morgan Freeman doing here? His tone was calm, yet filled with genuine interest. He asked the price. Emma stammered, saying it was $200. Morgan Freeman took out his wallet and paid in cash. This wasn't a regular sale. Morgan Freeman was buying her art. Emma's voice trembled, but she was so overwhelmed she couldn't even manage a simple thank you. However, Morgan didn't seem satisfied with just buying a painting. His eyes fell on a small handwritten sign on the table. Original art. Financing my chemotherapy. He slowly read it, and his expression changed. Beyond curiosity, a deep respect appeared in his eyes. "Did you make these?" he asked. Emma nodded, lowering her head slightly. In a whisper she said, "Yes, I'm a cancer patient." Morgan Freeman's face became serious. For a moment, the bustling city around them seemed to fade into the background. Thoughtfully, he took out his phone and began typing. Emma watched in disbelief as he typed. A few seconds later, he looked up and smiled. "I'm going to share this on Instagram," he said. With millions of followers on Instagram, Morgan handed her an additional $500. His voice was steady, yet warm. "You have something special, Emma. Keep going." As Morgan walked away, Emma stood frozen. The weight of the moment echoed in her mind. But this was just the beginning. Within minutes, her phone began to ring. Once, then twice, and then many times. People were texting her, tagging her, and sharing her story with the world. Emma Carter's life would never be the same again. The phone kept ringing, and notifications kept flooding in. Emma opened her eyes in disbelief, ready to step into this brand new world. Seconds after the post, Emma's phone exploded with notifications. Messages, comments, and shares covered her like a wave. With each notification, her heart raced faster, her eyes shining with astonishment. Everyone was admiring her art and her courage. And in that moment, it was only the beginning for Emma. Now she had not only the will to survive, but the determination to rebuild her life with art. Art had made her a stronger person. Her eyes shone with hope, reshaping the way she looked at life. Morgan Freeman's Instagram post had gone viral. His photo of her painting and her story had been shared thousands of times. Comments from all over the world were pouring in like rain. Messages of admiration for her courage, offers to buy her art, and words of support. Emma read the comments with trembling hands. A mixture of gratitude and amazement was swelling inside her. She had never imagined that her small art stand would receive such attention. The quiet corner of the park had become bustling. First, a few people arrived, then dozens, and soon it seemed as if half the city had gathered. They all wanted to see this girl praised by Morgan Freeman, buy her paintings, and be a part of her story. Just hours earlier, Emma's art had gone unnoticed, but now it was selling so quickly that she couldn't keep up. A young couple bought 2 paintings and insisted on paying double the price. A businessman in a suit handed her a $1,000 check and said, "This is for your next treatment." Even little children were leaving their allowances in the tip box, smiling proudly on their faces. Emma was trying to keep up. Despite her trembling hands, she carefully packaged the paintings and thanked everyone. But the crowd kept growing. Journalists had arrived, and cameras were flashing. They were interviewing her, wanting to hear her story. Local news channels were broadcasting live from in front of her stand. Her quiet corner had turned into a media center. Amidst the chaos, Emma felt strangely both happy and exhausted. Everything she had dreamed of was coming true, but it was happening so fast that she couldn't fully grasp it. Her mind was a mess, but with each painting sold, the joy inside her grew. On one hand, she wanted to savor this extraordinary day, but on the other, deep down, she had doubts about whether she deserved this attention. It felt like she would be better off escaping the crowd that made her feel so overwhelmed, like she needed a break. Then, as the sun set, a familiar face stood out from the crowd. It was Morgan Freeman, this time with his family. He smiled at her and gently quieted the excitement around them. "I think you have a fan club now," he said with a sincere tone. Emma laughed, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice trembling. Morgan shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. Just keep going. The world needs stories like yours." The next morning, Emma woke up to a completely different world. Her phone was still ringing non-stop, but now the messages weren't just from strangers. There were emails from art galleries, interview requests from major news channels, and a phone call from a producer of a famous morning show. Her story had spread incredibly fast, and everyone wanted to meet the brave young artist who had won Morgan Freeman's heart. Emma's parents had silently supported her from the very beginning. Now they were overwhelmed with emotion. Her mother hugged her, tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered with a choked voice. In her mother's words, Emma felt a lifetime of trust. Her father, a man of few words, simply nodded, his eyes shining with pride. In that moment, Emma realized just how loved she was. There was so much more than the moments when she had felt like she had conquered the world. But amidst all the celebrations, Emma had to face the reality ahead. In just a few days, her next round of chemotherapy was coming. The money she had earned from her art had lightened her financial burden, but the physical and emotional weight of her illness remained. She sat at the kitchen table, looking at the emails and messages. She felt both gratitude and fear. The world was watching her now, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. There were so many opportunities, so many offers, but the fear inside her was about everything changing so quickly. How can I sustain this moment? She asked herself. But still, there was hope. Perhaps this was her chance to truly live her dream. Later that day, she returned to her art stand, determined to continue. The crowd had grown even larger. People were lining up to buy her paintings and take photos with her. Emma smiled and thanked everyone, but inside, she was struggling to keep her composure. The exhaustion from her treatments had completely engulfed her, and being the constant center of attention was becoming overwhelming. She wanted to give herself just a moment to stop and breathe, but the crowd, the eyes, the photos, the questions, they were all part of the moment. Just as she was about to take a break, a familiar voice called her name. It was Morgan Freeman again. This time he had another surprise for her. "I've brought some friends with me," he said, pointing to the people behind him. Emma's eyes widened in recognition. She immediately recognized them. Local artists, gallery owners, and even a few celebrities. They were all there to support her, buy her art, and help her dreams grow even further. A wave of hope surged inside Emma. Maybe, just maybe, this moment could turn into something lasting. Perhaps all this support would take her one step further, pushing her toward the place she had always dreamed of. The next few days were nothing short of a storm. Emma's art stand had become a symbol of hope and resilience. People from all walks of life were coming to her. Celebrities, influencers, and even politicians stopped by to show their support. But what truly moved Emma were the stories of ordinary people who shared their struggles with her. Each of them had their own battle, and Emma's paintings were giving them strength. A woman who had survived breast cancer bought a painting and told Emma, "You're not alone in this fight." A young boy who had lost his father to illness handed her a handmade card. It said, "You inspire me." It was these moments that reminded Emma why she was here. This wasn't about money or fame. It was about connecting with people, showing them that there is light even in the darkest times. And perhaps most importantly, it was about reminding everyone that a light of hope can shine within all of us. Emma's heart swelled with pride, but what brought her to tears was seeing her parents holding hands in the corner. Their faces were shining with pride. Her mother locked eyes with her, and with trembling lips she said, "We're so proud of you, Emma." Her father, rarely one to show emotion, sent her a huge smile. Meanwhile, the offers kept coming in. A prestigious art gallery in New York offered her a chance to showcase her work. A publishing company wanted to turn her story into a book, and a major charity had invited her to speak at their annual gala. There, she would share her journey with some of the world's most influential people. Emma's head was spinning as she tried to process all of this. She had gone from selling paintings on a street corner to suddenly being the center of attention, and it was both exciting and terrifying. But through all of this, she continued to paint. Art had become her anchor, the thing that kept her grounded in the chaos. One evening, while drawing a vibrant sunset over the Golden Gate Bridge, she realized something important. This wasn't just her story anymore. It was the story of everyone who had been touched by her art, who had found hope in her courage. And this thought gave her the strength to keep going. When the day of Emma's first gallery exhibition arrived, the energy in the room was electric. The gallery was filled with art lovers, journalists, and a few celebrities who had come to support her. Emma stood at the entrance in a simple black dress, her excited smile radiating warmth. The paintings that had once been displayed on a folding table at a street corner were now hung on pristine white walls, bathed in soft golden light. Each piece told not only the story of her struggle, but also her hope, resilience, and unwavering belief in the power of art. As Emma walked through the gallery, snippets of conversation reached her ears. People were admiring the depth of her work, talking with awe about the emotion in every brushstroke. A man in a suit pointed to the painting of the Golden Gate Bridge and said, "This is not just a piece of art. It's a testament to the human spirit. The highlight of the evening came when Morgan Freeman took the stage to introduce Emma. "In my life, I've met many incredible people," he said, his voice firm and sincere. "But Emma is one of the bravest I've ever known. She's not just an artist, she's a warrior, an inspiration, and a reminder that no matter how hard life gets, we can always find a way to rise again." As the crowd erupted in applause, Emma walked up to the stage. Her heart raced as she looked out over the sea of faces. This wasn't just a moment to share her story. It was a moment to inspire others to keep fighting. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. The room fell silent. "6 months ago, I was sitting in a hospital room, wondering if I would ever paint again," she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. "Cancer took so much from me, my strength, my hair, my sense of normalcy, but it couldn't take my hope from my art." She paused for a moment, her eyes catching the proud smiles of her family. "When I set up that art stand on the corner of the park, I didn't know if anyone would come or where this path would take me. I didn't even know if I'd sell enough to cover my treatments, but there was one thing I knew. I had to try, because giving up was never an option." The room was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. Emma continued, her voice growing stronger. "What happened next was beyond anything I could have imagined. People didn't just come to buy my art. They came to share their stories, to tell me about their struggles, and to show me their hope. And then Morgan Freeman walked by, and everything changed." She glanced at Morgan, who gave her an encouraging nod. "But this isn't just my story. It's our story. It's the story of what can happen when we come together, support each other, and refuse to give in to the darkness." The crowd erupted into applause, but Emma wasn't finished yet. She lifted a small canvas in the air, a new piece she had created for this special moment. A single sunflower reaching toward the light. "This is for everyone fighting their own battles," she said, her voice trembling. "No matter how hard it gets, keep reaching for the light, keep fighting, and never, never give up." As she stepped off the stage, the room was filled with applause. People lined up to hug her, thank her, and tell her how much her words meant to them. In that moment, Emma realized that her art had not only helped cover her treatment costs, it had given people hope. The weeks following the gallery exhibition passed in a blur. Emma's story spread across the globe. Her paintings were selling out within hours of being posted online, and the demand was so high that she had to create a waiting list. But through all the chaos, Emma remained true to herself. She poured her heart into every piece, and she made sure to stay connected to the people who had supported her from the very beginning. One of the most meaningful moments came in the form of a letter from a young girl named Lila, who had been diagnosed with leukemia. "Your story gave me hope," Lila had written. "I start chemotherapy next week, and I'm scared. But when I look at your paintings, I feel like I can be brave too." Emma read the letter over and over again, tears streaming down her cheeks. She knew exactly how the young girl felt: fear, uncertainty, and that desperate need for hope. That night, Emma stayed up late to create a special painting for Lila. It depicted a starry night sky, with a bright star shining at the center. The next day, she mailed the painting to Lila, along with a note: "You are not alone. Keep looking for the light." As Emma's fame grew, so did her impact. She partnered with a charity to support cancer patients, using her art to give back to the community. She also launched a social media campaign called Paint Your Hope, encouraging people to share their own stories of resilience. The campaign quickly gained traction. Thousands of people joined her by sharing their artwork, struggles, and hopes. Emma spent hours reviewing the posts, her heart swelling with pride. She had started this journey alone, but now she was part of a global movement of hope, courage, and creativity. Exactly 1 year after that pivotal moment, Emma took the stage at a major charity gala and looked out over a room filled with some of the world's most influential people. She had come so far from that little art stand, but she still felt like the same girl, the one who refused to give up no matter what. The event was meant to celebrate her journey, but it was also a call to action. Emma had been invited to speak, and she knew it was an opportunity to make a difference. "When I was diagnosed with cancer, I thought my world had come to an end," she began, her voice strong but laden with emotion. "But then I discovered something incredible, the power of art. Art became my lifeline, my way of fighting, my path to finding hope in the darkest moments. And when I shared my story, something even more incredible happened. People stood by me, bought my paintings, shared their own stories, and reminded me that I was not alone." After a brief pause, she let her eyes wander across the room. "But there are still many people out there fighting, still struggling, still searching for hope. And that's why we're here tonight, because they shouldn't have to fight this battle alone." The crowd erupted in applause, but Emma wasn't done yet. She revealed a new painting she had been working on for months. It was a large canvas filled with vibrant colors and bold brushstrokes, depicting a group of people holding hands with their faces turned toward the light. "This is for everyone who's ever felt lost, scared, or alone," she said, her voice trembling. "Together, we can be the light for each other. Together, we can change the world." As Emma stepped off the stage, the room stood in applause, cheers echoing. Emma smiled, her heart full of love. She had started this journey to save her own life, but along the way, she realized she had touched the lives of countless others, and that was her greatest masterpiece. The gala marked the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. Emma's life had changed in ways she could never have imagined, but she had remained true to herself. She focused on the people who supported her and the cause she was fighting for. She continued to make art, and as her works gained strength, so did she. Her art had become a symbol of hope, not just for patients, but for anyone facing challenges. She traveled the world, giving speeches at events, hosting workshops, and inspiring others to find their own paths to fight. But no matter how far she went, she never forgot where she started. The little art stand at the corner of Fifth Avenue and Main Street. One day, she returned there, setting up her stand just like she had a year ago. The city buzzed around her, but this time, people recognized her. They stopped to talk, thank her, and share their own stories. Emma smiled, her heart full of gratitude. This was the first step toward a brighter future. As she was painting, a young girl approached her, holding a piece of paper. "I made this for you," she said shyly, handing it to Emma. It was a drawing of a sunflower. Emma's eyes welled up. She remembered the painting she had made for the young girl. Gently taking the drawing, she said, "Thank you. This means so much more to me than you know." The little girl smiled and ran back to her family. Emma took a deep breath, filled with a sense of gratitude. Once a girl who fought for her own life, she had now become a woman who inspired others to fight. As the sun set, golden light illuminated the city. Emma packed up her stand, her heart light. She didn't know what the future would bring, but she knew one thing for sure. No matter what happened, she would keep painting, she would keep fighting, and she would continue to shine her light so others could follow.